Hey, FCF, this is our last day. We're still in the book of Ephesians, chapter 6. Today we're going to look at verses 5 through 9. And you have to understand the word slave is going to be used. And I know that's really offensive and difficult for us to even hear today in our culture based on past American history. But you have to understand slavery is something that's existed all through mankind's history, and it still exists today as well. It is never God's will, not God's will, albeit many of the Christians, the first century Christians, were slaves in the Roman Empire. And so they had to learn how to relate to their masters as Christians. And this was a complex thing because ultimately they were submitted to Jesus as their Lord, but they also had to continue to function as human beings in a society in which they were slaves. Here's the deal. When a Roman Empire conquered a country, you might be a lawyer, you might be a doctor, you might be some other kind of an economics professional, whatever the case may be, but you became a slave. And so you were a household slave, and you might continue your function, whatever your expertise was. Nevertheless, you were owned, though, by your masters, and you had to especially watch your attitude in that context. All right, so we're going to apply this way, though. Employees and employers. We're not slaves today. But the principles that we're going to read here for slaves that were Christians, they really carry over rather nicely into employee-employer relationships today. So here we go. Ephesians 6, 5 through 9. Slaves, let's think employees. I know you're thinking, yeah, that's what I am. I'm a slave. Slaves, obey your earthly masters. So we got the action first. Obey them. Just do what they say. Just do your job. Slaves, obey your earthly masters, but now attitude. With respect and fear and with sincerity of heart, just as you would obey Christ. Now there's the qualifier. How should I obey my earthly master? And again, think in terms of if you were a Roman in the first century, you were a real slave, and your earthly master may not have been the most pleasant person in the world, but still it says, obey them as you would obey Christ. Verse 6, obey them not only to win their favor when their eye is on you, but as slaves of Christ, doing the will of God from your heart. Verse 7, serve wholeheartedly, think in terms of employer, serve wholeheartedly as if you were serving the Lord, not people, not your boss, not your company. Verse 8, because you know that the Lord will reward each one for whatever good they do, whatever good you do for your company, whatever effort you put in. It's the Lord you're serving. He's going to reward you whether they are slave or free. Then the Lord addresses masters, verse 9. Masters, or we might call managers, bosses, CEOs, whatever, company owners. Masters, treat your slaves, your employees, in the same way. Do not threaten them, since you know that he who is both their master and yours is in heaven, and there's no favoritism with him. So let's kind of trace back through these. So the first thing that hits us is that these are individuals that have lost a certain degree of control of their lives. But isn't that true whenever you go into the work world? You go into the work world, someone is paying you for services, and they're going to tell you what they need done. And so my job as a Christian employee is to try to ascertain the best that I can, what exactly do they want me to do, and how can I do it the very best that I possibly can? Because I'm not really serving them. I'm serving Christ. He's the one watching me. He's the one that's going to reward me for any good thing that I do, any special effort I make, any wholehearted effort that I give, whether my master, whether my boss, whether the company owners appreciate it ever or not, whether I'm given, the appropriate pay for it or the response or the thanks, doesn't matter, because I'm transferring my job description from whoever is directly over me. I'm submitting to Christ. Let's read through it again in that light. Slaves, obey your earthly masters with respect and fear and sincerity of heart, just as you would obey Christ. I'm not seeing that earthly master who may not be very nice, very kind, very sympathetic, very fair, very just. I'm seeing Christ instead of them. Secondly, obey them not only to win their favor when their eye is on you, but as slaves of Christ, doing the will of God from your heart. So this is talking about the employee that, really gets moving when the boss is around, but who slacks off when there's opportunity. No. When we're serving Christ, there's no reason to ever slack off, because he's always watching, but he's watching not with a judgmental eye. He's watching with an eager eye to see how much we enthusiastically give ourselves to serving him by serving our employers. Or in this case, if you were Roman, your actual slave owner. Verse 8, he says, because you know that, he says, serve wholeheartedly, verse 7, as if you were serving the Lord, not people. Now, I want to tell you a secret about that. That's the secret to turning any kind of a boring job, any job that's got drudgery in it, any kind of an unpleasant work environment. Let's say your bosses are not nice and the people are not friendly and it's a backstabbing culture and you're always expected to do more than any human can do. So you've got all these things that are in your context that are unpleasant. You will find this to be a powerful secret. If you go at it wholeheartedly, you will absolutely find inside it's more pleasant, whatever the job may be. I don't care how tedious, I don't care how boring, I don't care how difficult. If you go at it half-hearted, if you go at it with kind of a grudging attitude, if you go at it kind of, I can't believe I got to do this, and nobody appreciates it anyway, and everybody's trying to work me over and pile work on me. If you have that kind of an attitude, you will have a miserable time anywhere we work. But if you say, you know what, I'm here to serve Christ, and because I'm serving him and his eye is on me, he's going to appreciate when I give wholehearted effort. I am giving wholehearted effort. Ironically, when we go at it wholeheartedly every single day, we actually start to accumulate some joy in what we do. I don't care how difficult or dirty or unpleasant the task may be. So serve wholeheartedly as if you were serving Christ, because you know that the Lord will positively, he will reward each one for whatever good they do. Way after you and I have forgotten our faithfulness on those bad days in the workplace and those tedious jobs, we will have forgotten about it. We will be amazed that Christ has detailed logs that he wants to now reward us for those moments, those days, those hours of faithfulness and humility and wholehearted service. What we have long forgotten, he has not forgotten, and he will disproportionately reward us for it. And we need to count on that right now. That gives meaning to every day at work. It gives meaning to every experience at work. It gives meaning to being patient when we're treated unfairly, and all these things that can happen in any typical workplace. And then he closes with this. He says, to the masters, to the bosses, be thinking about what you're doing. He says, treat your slaves or your employees in the same way. Do not threaten them, since you know that he who is both their master and yours is in heaven, and there's no favoritism with him. It's a warning to those who, in this case, were Christian slave owners, who are saying, hey, you talk to them now like brothers and sisters in Christ. Yes, you still lead, but you don't threaten them. That's not appropriate, because you're going to have to answer to the Lord, and he will not forget, and he will not be impressed that you're the slave owner or the CEO or the boss. Judgment will be fair on the day that comes. So we need to tuck all those things away too, because when we are treated unfairly by bosses, when we're maybe humiliated by them, we just need to be silent. We need to be patient. But remember, the Lord sees what's going on, and he's not going to let this stuff slide. So all this is meant to give us inner strength to engage the circumstances we're in the work world in particular, when they're less than ideal. And most work is less than ideal. I'm so amused these days, because we are the generation that has created these nonsensical thoughts about work. We say things like, well, just find something you love to do and you'll never work a day in your life. Well, that's really nice if you can do that. But I'm going to tell you, study human history. Most of human history, most of the people who ever lived and died on planet Earth, they worked from sun up till sundown, doing things they did not like to do. They did not find passion in it. They were not highly fulfilled, but they really did want to survive, and so they did it. But we can find fulfillment in work if we remember it's Christ that we're working for, and he sees everything, and he will disproportionately reward faithfulness. All right, we'll stop there for this week. Thank you.